Hello, and welcome back to another Football Commentaries live stream as we roll into February. The Premier League title race is really hotting up after Arsenal's win yesterday against league leaders Liverpool. But our focus tonight is on Manchester City as they travel to the GTEC Community Stadium to take on Brentford. And for Brentford, they are still not in great form despite two positive performances against Forest and Spurs. They are in fifth at the moment, 3 points off the bottom three. They have just 2 wins in their last 10 Premier League games, and they now have to face a City side with De Bruyne and Haaland starting together for the first time in 178 days. Of course, this is a huge bonus for Guardiola and City, who are a run of 8 wins in a row in all competitions and are only 5 points off the top, with Liverpool currently first and City have 2 games in hand. These two sides have not played each other so far this season, but last season Brentford were able to do the league double over Manchester City and could become the first side to beat City 3 times in a row since Liverpool, when they did that from March 2015 to December 2016, when Liverpool actually went on a winning run of 4 against Manchester City. City will look for revenge tonight, but will they be able to get it as Brentford take on Manchester City on this Monday night football? It's a big game for the title race, because if Manchester City can capitalise on Liverpool losing to Arsenal, then that means Manchester City would put themselves back up to second on goal difference. They would be on the same points as Arsenal, but ahead of them on goal difference, and then they'd only be 2 points off Liverpool, and they would have a game in hand on both Arsenal and Liverpool. So basically, if City win both games in hand, they could go first in the league by a point. But they've got to come here to Brentford, where last season they lost twice against them. Firstly, they lost against them at home, 2-1. It was the last game before the World Cup. Ivan Toney put Brentford in the lead in the 16th minute, then Foden equalised right before half-time, before a 98th minute winner from Ivan Toney made sure that Brentford won all 3 points at the Etihad last time out. And then the last game of the season, Brentford beat Manchester City here at the GTEC Community Stadium by 1-0. Manchester City's team was very heavily rotated, in fairness, but that doesn't take away the fact that Brentford were able to win and do the league double over them, and the league double was completed with an Ethan Pinnock goal in the 85th minute, and Brentford were the only team to do the league double over Manchester City last season. In fact, Guardiola has never lost 3 consecutive top flight meetings with the same opponent against the same opponent. He's never lost 3 in a row consecutively in the top flight. So we could have a few records broken here if Brentford can come out with the victory. They're not in the best of form, though. They're still missing key players despite having Ivan Toney back. They've still got Wissa out. At AFCON in Burma, is still out injured. They've obviously got fullbacks missing of Hickey and Henry as well. So they are still missing quite key players at the moment, Brentford. Hence why they are near the bottom, 15th at the moment, 3 points off relegation, which is a pretty scary stat really for Brentford, because there is teams around them who are improving and picking up the points where Brentford aren't at the moment. We did commentate on their last game against Spurs away, and they got off to the first half was pretty good. It was pretty solid. In fairness, they were 1-0 up and looked solid, but they absolutely collapsed the first 10 minutes of that second half, and obviously found themselves 3-1 down, and they were able to get themselves back in at 3-2 through Ivan Toney with 20 minutes to go, but couldn't quite find the equalizer, and they were able to win in their last home game, where they beat Nottingham Forest by 3-2. So their last 2 games have had 10 goals scored. So let's hope for something the same tonight. Let's hope for some more goals at the GTEC Community Stadium. Kickoff is just under 4 minutes away, and I feel like this could be a really pivotal night in the title race for Manchester City, because if they can win, they can go above Arsenal on goal difference, and they can get right behind Liverpool, 2 points behind them with a game in hand. You just start to see the momentum slide and switch towards Manchester City, which is not what anyone really wants, because once City are in the position to win the league, they usually go full throttle and win it, especially when it comes to these February, March times, when it comes to the crunch end of the season. That's when usually Manchester City really switch it on, and hence why they've won so many Premier League titles. They are currently on a run of 3 Premier League titles in a row. They have won 5 in the last 7. They've all been under Pep Guardiola, and it just seems like everything's starting to come together for Manchester City. They've won 8 in a row at the moment, no competitions. De Bruyne is back absolutely firing. Erling Haaland starting his first game since the end of November. And it is the first time, as mentioned before, that it is the first time that De Bruyne and Erling Haaland are starting together for the first time in 178 days since they both started the opening league game of the season when Manchester City won away to Burnley. So it just seems like it's all starting to fall in Manchester City's favour, but they don't want any hiccups on the road, especially here at Brentford, a team that they have struggled to play against last season, especially. But the season before that, when Brentford were first promoted to the Premier League, City did the league double on them. Manchester City won 1-0 away from home just after Christmas in 2021. Foden with the only goal, and then they won 2-0 at home in the February of 2022. Mahrez penalty and a De Bruyne goal with 20 minutes to play. So Manchester City can beat this Brentford side. They just haven't been able to the last 2 attempts. We're going to go through both sides really quickly. Start with the home side. Just the one change from their loss to Tottenham. And it is remaining with Mark Flecken in goal. Back 5 of Mads Roerslev, Nathan Collins, Ethan Pinnock, Ben Mee, formerly of Manchester City for 6 years. And Sergio Reguilon, who's making his first start for Brentford since signing on loan from Tottenham Hotspur. 3 midfield, Norgard, the captain, making his 150th Brentford appearance. He'll play alongside another Danish player, and that is Mathias Jensen, and then Vitaly Janelt is also in the midfield, and he's featured in every game so far this season for Brentford in all competitions, and 2 players leading the line. Neil Maupay, who got a goal against Spurs last time out, who is his first away goal in the Premier League this season. He'll play alongside Ivan Toney, who scored his 70th Brentford goal last time out in his 126th appearance for the club. For Manchester City, Ederson is in goal with Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz, Nathan Ake and Josko Gvardiol making up the back 4. 3 in midfield. One is going to be Rodri, who's looking for his 20th Premier League goal in his career. He'll play alongside Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, who has played Brentford 3 times previously, and he has got the 1 goal, and that came 2 seasons ago at the Etihad. And then leading the line up front, we've got forwards of Phil Foden, who scored who played his 150th game in the Premier League last time out against Burnley, and that was also his 250th appearance for Manchester City. He'll play with Julian Alvarez, who started every single Premier League game so far this season, and a returning Erling Haaland, who's failed to score in 7 games in the Premier League this season. He's not scored in this last 3 that he's played in, but he is starting for the first time here since early December. His last start was against Aston Villa in that away defeat on the 6th of December. His last Premier League goal came on the 25th of November against Liverpool, and his last goal in all competitions was that home Champions League win against RB Leipzig on the 28th of November. So he is itching to get that goal-scoring feeling back. He did come off the bench against Burnley in the last Premier League game, but he wasn't able to score, as Erling Haaland has never scored against Brentford. He's only featured against them once before, and that came in the home game which they lost last season before the World Cup. And it'll be a very interesting game here at the GTEC Community Stadium, as Brentford need the points because they are lurking around the relegation spots, and Manchester City, of course, as always, need the 3 points so they can maintain their title charge, as they can be the team at the top once all games have been played. Obviously, City have got 2 in hand at the moment. One of them is tonight, and they've got another one also against Brentford, which is coming up soon. Because when they meant to play Brentford, they were actually at the Club World Cup, so they've still got to play Brentford at home as well, which is the other game in hand. As City kickers off, kicking right to left, Brentford left to right. Ederson sends it long, flicked on by Haaland, cleared away by Jensen in behind the City defence. Ruben Diaz will get there first and plays it to right back Kyle Walker on the far side. Down the line for Foden, flicks it off Reguilon, and that'll be Bernardo Silva did that, and that'll be a throw-in for Manchester City. And there is Thomas Frank in charge of his 98th Premier League game. He's coming up to 100, which would be a great landmark for the Danish coach, as it's going to be another Manchester City throw-in towards the halfway line. Reguilon with another interception, with Kyle Walker, the Manchester City captain, with the throw-in. Taking his time, not finding the correct option at the moment. Eventually throws it down the line, looking for Haaland, headed away by Ben Mee, flicked on by Janelt, and then on once more by Maupay, out for a throw-in again for Manchester City towards the halfway line. Not really had a lot of the ball on the floor at the moment, as we do have it now with Walker going forward to Haaland. Just bounces off the Norwegian. It goes to Janelt, who goes over on the challenge, but not seen as a strong enough one for a foul from the referee, Jared Gillett, tonight's referee. And it's with Manchester City on the halfway line here with number 6, Nathan Ake, who's making his 110th appearance for Manchester City. Scored very recently in their FA Cup fourth round win away at Tottenham, their first ever goal at Tottenham's new stadium. And it is now with Ruben Dias as Manchester City have all the Brentford players in front of them at the moment, as it's Phil Foden dropping slightly deep for the ball here and laying it off to Walker, then back through for Foden in the final third, just outside the area, lifts across into the box, it's headed away by Collins, and it's helped forward by Mopé, out wide right here to Ivan Toney, who will get there, down the Brentford right, into the Manchester City half, very isolated, as he's got Ake and Gvardiol near him. He still charges down the line here, Ivan Toney, towards the corner flag, works a low cross in towards Mopé, who gets there ahead of Diaz. He's got his back to goal, and he's been tackled in the end by Rodri. Strong defending there from the Spaniard. As Diaz's clearance bounces off Rodri straight to Jensen, to his right to Toney, lifts a ball into the box. It's not dealt with there by Diaz, it is the second time. And Ake can't avoid the corner. And it's a little bit messy there from Manchester City. The Ruben Diaz clearance bouncing straight off Rodri. And it eventually fell to Jensen, who got it out wide to Toney, who went for the cross. And Diaz tried to deal with it the first time. And he just put it into an area where Ederson tried to come and claim it. But Diaz decided to clear anyway before the Brazilian goalkeeper came to it, to avoid any kind of mistakes like we saw yesterday between Alisson and Van Dijk, and we also saw Arsenal have a bit of a mess up between Saliba and Raya as the corner goes in swinger, headed away by Haaland at the near post, controlled by Phil Foden in the box, and then he clears it away up towards De Bruyne on the halfway line. He chases it down, but it was Roerslev to get there first, who goes back to Flecken in the Brentford goal, and he'll clear it out with his left foot towards the Brentford right, looking for Roerslev. Does win the header on Foden, controlled though by Gvardiol, who lays it off to Foden. And inside to Rodri, and it's now with the right centre-back of Ruben Diaz, who's making his 160th appearance for Manchester City. His last Premier League goal came back in December 2021. He has got did get the one goal last season. He's yet to score this season, though, Ruben Diaz, as it's now with Gvardiol, midway inside the Brentford half, just on the left-hand side, goes to his right here to Ake. Brentford sitting very deep, everyone behind the ball at the moment as they shift it to the right-hand side, and it's now with De Bruyne. So Kyle Walker overlapping, but he feeds the ball to Ruben Diaz instead. Now across to the near side to Gvardiol, in a similar area where he had the ball just a moment ago. As we know, Manchester City like to keep the possession, as they do come into this game off the back of a 3-1 home win to Burnley in the week. De Bruyne switches out to the left, can't find Gvardiol, headed away by Roerslev, straight to Gvardiol on the edge of the 18-yard box, goes back on himself as he avoids the challenge of Jensen. It's now with Rodri. Looking for the pass, he's got options to his left and finds Gvardiol. Inside for Alvarez, cut out by Norgard. Toney for Mopé. Now trying to find Toney in behind. He will chase that ball down in the Manchester City half, but it'll be Nathan Ake to get there first, and he'll play it back to the goalkeeper of Ederson, who did keep the 2 clean sheets in that first season. Brentford were in the Premier League, and obviously in the last 2 games they have conceded in both. As Haaland on the halfway line in the centre circle, playing it through towards Foden, who's asking for the foul because he's been pulled by Jensen, but the referee doesn't give it, and it's Brentford on the ball on this near side with their right wing back of Roerslev. Goes down the line, lifted ball, nowhere near Ivan Toney, easily controlled down by Nathan Ake, and it's quickly played into Rodri. He'll drive forward with the ball, look out to the right hand side and shifts it to number 2, Kyle Walker, who's appeared in every Premier League game so far this season for Manchester City. Bar the Burnley game, that was the first game he's not featured in the season in the Premier League. Kyle Walker given a rest, and Rico Lewis was played at right back ahead of him as Brentford win the ball, and it's cleared down the left hand side, deflects off the back of Bernardo Silva from Reguilon, and it will be a throw in for Brentford. No clear cut chances made really in the opening 5 minutes and 40 seconds of this game, as Yarnelt's clearance is poor, falls to Bernardo Silva, who's tackled by Yarnelt. Good recovery by the German midfielder, and they now try and break forward. Reguilon finds Yarnelt inside to Toney on the halfway line, runs being made in behind, can't release, sits, and he's tackled there, Ivan Toney, and it is Back with Edison in the 18-yard box. It's now Kyle Walker, who's in the right centre-back position. He goes to Diaz, who's taking up his right-back role. He plays it down the line for De Bruyne. The ball stays in. He pokes it through for Bernardo Silva, who gets there ahead of Norgard. Plays it back through for De Bruyne, who's charging away in the air in the 18-yard box. He crosses it to the near post. And Foden tried to meet it, but the power of the cross just beat him, and it was caught by Mark Flecken, who releases it quickly out to the left-hand side to Reguilon, who's going to go for a ball across. It's intercepted by Ake midway inside his own half, and it's been played forward by Rodri to Alvarez in the centre circle. And now shifted out to the right to Bernardo Silva. De Bruyne overlaps. It's a 2v1. He finds De Bruyne, squares it. Haaland shot blocked at the near post by Pinnock, and the ball rolls out for a Manchester City throw-in. That link-up starting to reconnect once again. Not sure how they let Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne run 2-on-1 at Ben Mee, but that's what happened, and they worked it to De Bruyne, who found the cross, and Haaland did have the shot, but it was blocked by Ethan Pinnock as City have got on the edge of the area with Gvardiol. Can't find the pass through to Foden. It deflects out wide left for Manchester City, where Gvardiol loses out to Roerslev, who clears it off the Croatian, and it'll be a throw-in for Brentford just next to the corner flag on this near side. Thank you to everyone who's here. If you could like and subscribe, that'd be absolutely fantastic. We've got 2 more commentaries coming in the next 2 days. Tomorrow we are covering Rangers against Aberdeen in the Scottish Premiership, and on Wednesday we are covering Aston Villa against Chelsea in the FA Cup 4th round replay. They are all scheduled on the channel, so you can see them and set the reminders. As Brentford clear it down the right-hand side, swings out of play for a Manchester City throw-in inside their own half on the near side. Gvardiol throws here to Rodri, back into Gvardiol, running back towards his own goal, plays it backwards here to Ake, now with Edison in the 18-yard box, who takes the touch and sprays it out to the right-hand side. It goes behind Kyle Walker, who can sprint to keep the ball in. He goes down the line, can't find Bernardo Silva as Ben Mee slides in, and it'll be a throw-in for Manchester City. Mentioned it before, but Ben Mee was at Manchester City for 6 years, from 2006 to 2012. He's played Manchester City 15 times previously, scoring once before. And that was in January 2017 in his Burnley days. As Brentford have won the ball back here, it's with the right centre-back of Nathan Collins, who was sent off against Manchester City last season when he was at Wolves at Molineux, a high boot challenge on Jack Grealish. But he's at a new club now, Nathan Collins, 4 clubs in the last 4 years for the Irish centre-back. As Brentford have got it outside their 18-yard box of Pinnock. Goes across here to Ben Mee. High ball out to the left-hand side, looking for Reguilon, heads it down the line himself, looking for Mope. Ruben Diaz will get there first, and he goes back to Edison, a 3-time Golden Glove winner. The Brazilian did only keep the 11 clean sheets last season, which was his lowest ever in the Premier League. His second lowest before that was only 17. So it was quite the drop-off in clean sheets last season, but didn't make too much of a difference, as obviously Manchester City still went on and won the Premier League. As Gvardiol's got it, driving in towards the midfield area and plays it across the right to Alvarez. 22 yards from goal. He's going to think about pulling the trigger, and he will do so, and it's a save that needed to be made there by Flecken. Alvarez shot towards the near post, top right corner. He was well found by Gvardiol, and Alvarez always looking to try and get the shot off, and eventually he did. Nearly blocked by an outstretched leg of Norgard, but it was just creeping in at that near post, and it was a save that needed to be made there by Flecken, who got his 6'5" build diving across the goal to stop it hitting the back of the net. But City do have a corner on the far side. It's going to be right-footed outswinger by De Bruyne. In it goes towards the penalty spot. Header won by Ben Mee. Still alive in the area. Headed forward by Gvardiol. Another header won by Mee. Headed forward by Ake this time. Controlled in the area by Rodri. Lays it off to Gvardiol, who shoots it, blocked, and it goes out for another corner on that far side. Frustrated with himself there, Josko Gvardiol, who's still searching for his first Premier League goal. The Croatian, who started 8 of the last 9 games in the Premier League. There is tonight's referee, Jared Gillett. And as the header was put back in by Ake, Rodri went for it, and so did Diaz, who threw himself to the ground after a challenge from Nathan Collins. That's very acrobatic. That's very dramatic. That definitely won't be given as a penalty. Ruben Diaz, I think, looking for that one, you could say. But it'll be another corner from De Bruyne. Plenty of bodies in there. As De Bruyne crosses it in. It's dangerous. A header won by Pinnock. Straight back to De Bruyne. He'll put it back in. Volleys it towards the edge of the area where it's touched down by Haaland to Bernardo Silva, who will then curl the ball in towards the far post. It goes beyond everyone. And that'll be a goal kick for Brentford. Pinnock went to win the header, but I think it just went over him, so he can win his side the goal kick. 4 changes, though, for Manchester City from their Premier League win against Burnley on the 31st of January. Stones, Lewis, Nunez and Doku dropped to the bench. And the likes of Kyle Walker comes back in, Ruben Diaz as well, Bernardo Silva, and obviously Erling Haaland. As the goal kick goes long for Fleck and can't find Tony. Headed won by Diaz, straight to Bernardo Silva on the halfway line on the far side. Can he take on Ben Mee? No, he can't tackle fairly by the former Burnley defender. It's now inside to Mope. Lays it off to Yarnell, who plays it through for Tony, who's in behind. Flag may go up after this attack's finished. Tony with the finish, straight to Edison. And the flag eventually goes up. Did look quite the way offside there, Ivan Toney, who's looking for his 3rd goal in a row since his return. Scoring against Forest and Tottenham in the last 2 games. But the ball was played into Mope. Laid it off for Yarnell, and yeah, Tony had gone early. By a yard or so offside there. Flag went up there on the near side from the assistant referee, Neil Davis. So Manchester City free kick, midway inside their own half. It's with number 3, Ruben Diaz. He will play it, a high ball to Foden on the halfway line. With Gavardio. Alvarez just about shifts it to Rodri, who keeps the ball moving to Diaz as he was being pressed there by Mope. Now Kyle Walker passes the halfway line. No one pressing him at the moment, but plays the ball to his left here to Rodri. Now with Foden, who just drifted out towards the right-hand side position here. And he gets the ball back from Walker. Foden through to Haaland, edge of the area, lays it off for Alvarez, who wants to shoot again, and he will do so, and it's met again by the save of Flecken. And it'll be another corner. Again to his left, Flecken, like the other save he made on Alvarez. This time it was a low finish towards the bottom right corner, down to Flecken's left, and he was able to get a firm left hand to it and tipped it behind for a corner. He's conceded a lot of goals so far this season, Mark Flecken, 34 in the Premier League. He's got no clean sheets in his last 11. As De Bruyne floats it to the far post, Silva back across, Norgard wins the header. It's now with Walker, about 30 yards from goal. He's going to let fly himself. He hits it, and another strong save from Flecken. We know Kyle Walker can hit them. He hasn't got many Manchester City goals, just the 6 in his previous 283 appearances, but he's gone for the shot there. Loads of movement on it. That's a beautiful strike and a strong save. This time diving to his right, Mark Flecken. Decent attempt from Walker. Certainly had the power. And if he could have maybe just lifted that a bit more towards the top corner, the Dutch goalkeeper could have had a bit more of a struggle with that, but it's a strong save nonetheless. And it'll be another Manchester City corner. This time on the near side. Ruben Diaz and Neil Mope having a discussion with the referee. We know what Neil Mope can be like. He was very animated during the Tottenham game, Neil Mope, winding up the Spurs players, as it is Neil Mope's job to keep Ruben Diaz away from Mark Flecken, as the corner will be crossed in here by De Bruyne towards the 6-yard area, punched by Flecken, drops to Alvarez, can't work the shot, goes back to Walker, back out wide left now to De Bruyne, takes one touch and then can cross it with his right foot. It's a deeper one and it's too deep in the end. It goes right over Haaland's head and out for a Brentford goal kick, as we have 15 minutes in here at the GTEC Community Stadium, and it's Brentford 0, Manchester City 0. As you'd expect, it's Pep Guardiola's side with the majority of the possession, and they have had the majority of the shots, working 3 decent saves from Mark Flecken. Brentford haven't done anything yet, as it is it's Pep Guardiola's 448th game in charge of Manchester City, close to 450, which is absolutely ridiculous. And they've only lost one of their last 21, Manchester City, in all competitions, and that was away to Aston Villa on the 6th of December. As Brentford have the ball with Ben Mee in his own half. Goes across to right centre-back Collins. It's now to Roerslev. Foden's going to come across to press the number 30. He goes back inside to Norgard. First time ball around the corner and over the top, but no one's there for Brentford. Edison will meet it outside of his area and lift it over towards Gavardio, who lets the ball bounce, and the ball will go out for a throw-in. Not the best of goalkeeping there from Edison. He didn't even have to leave his area because no Brentford player was chasing down that ball over the top from Jensen. And then he put Gvardiol in a bit of a sticky situation with a bouncing ball which he couldn't deal with. And it's a throw in for Brentford midway inside the City half on this near side. And it'll be taken by number 22, Nathan Collins. Jensen, Norgard, down the line to Røslev. Jensen again, kicks it off Foden. Another throw in for the Bees, as they have only got the one win in their last 9 in all competitions, and that came back on the 20th of January to Nottingham Forest, the first game where Ivan Toney returned. Pinnock, high ball down the right-hand side, too high, too overhit, and he'll go out for a Brentford throw, a Manchester City throw-in, right next to the corner flag on the near side, so it's definitely an opportunity for Brentford to push up the field here and maybe try and win the ball back in a dangerous area. Josko Gvardiol with the ball in his hands to take this throw-in. Finds Rodri, back to Gvardiol, clears it first time with a switch ball out towards Walker, who will chase the ball down, but he won't get there ahead of Reguilon. 2 former Spurs players here as Reguilon works it inside here to Norgard towards the halfway line, back out to the left to Reguilon. It's now number 6, Norgard, once again, who was out for 2 games with a foot injury before returning for the Spurs match. There's Reguilon being challenged here by another Spaniard, and that's Rodri, twisting and turning here Reguilon, and can keep the ball in play, but loses it to Rodri on the corner flag. It's now with Walker in the area, turns forward and clips the ball up towards De Bruyne, free header to be won for Collins, flicked forward by Ben Mee, lifted in the area by JanElt, but straight through for the goalkeeper of Edison, and it's Manchester City's ball. As Manchester City are unbeaten in their last 6 in the Premier League, 4 wins in a row at the moment against Everton, Sheffield United, Newcastle and Burnley. And Aston Villa, that defeat at Villa Park in December, is the only game where Manchester City have not scored in the Premier League. And that was quite the blip for City. They had 2 shots on goal that day, and they both came, I think, in the 10th minute. They were completely outplayed against Unai Emery's Aston Villa that day. One of the best Villa performances I've seen against one of the best performances I've seen against the Pep Guardiola side. City have it with Walker, lifts it into the area, looking for Haaland, nodded down by Pinnock, straight to De Bruyne, who picks up the missing pieces here and floats the ball to the far post. Haaland will head it back, or tries to head it back across, but it deflects off a Brentford defender, and that'll be a Manchester City corner once again. So this is their 4th of the game, as De Bruyne was able to dig that cross out. Haaland was on the tight angle, so could only head it back across if he could have, but it came off the shoulder of Reguilon instead. And Manchester City have another set piece. All 3 of Manchester City's defeats in the Premier League have come away from home this season, to Wolves in September, Arsenal October and Aston Villa in December. But it's definitely a place where they need to come and win tonight, as Ivan Toney flicks away the De Bruyne corner, as far as Bernardo Silva on the edge of the box. To his right to Walker, shifts it on once more to Alvarez, who will cross it himself towards Haaland, headed down by Collins, straight to Gvardiol, who shoots from the edge of the box, and that is always rising over the crossbar, as Gvardiol is still searching for that first Manchester City goal, and he'll have to wait a little bit longer, the 22-year-old Croatian, who is predominantly being used at left-back for Manchester City, but can definitely play centre-half as well. But Manchester City have got plenty of options in centre-back position when everyone's fit. The likes of John Stones and Manuel Akanji are both on the bench tonight for Manchester City. As it's Flecken with the goal kick, he'll go along with the goal kick. Forward, beyond the halfway line. Can he find Ivan Toney? He lets it run through to Mopé, who's in behind the City defence. Is he onside? We do not know yet, but he'll slot it into the bottom left corner, and the flag stays down. Neil Mopé gives Brentford the lead. He scored in their last game against Tottenham, and he scored again at home for Brentford. It's his 5th of the season in the Premier League. It's his 7th in all competitions, and he's now 2 goals away from 50 for Brentford as he rejoined them this season for his 2nd spell at the club. And that is the absolute definition of Route 1. Flecken went long for Toney, who instead of going for the header, just blocked off Nathan Ake, let the ball run through to Mope, who would beat the offside trap, entered the area, Ederson came out, but very calmly, the French striker took his time, entered the area, good touch in front of him with his head, touch to send him just slightly wide to create the angle, and with his right foot, he slotted it beyond Ederson, into that bottom left corner. It's an expert finish from Brentford's number 7. And with their first shot of the game, Brentford take the lead. It is Brentford 1, Manchester City 0. And Neil Maupay was onside as the goal will stand 1-0 to the Bees after being dominated for the first 20 minutes in terms of possession and chances, really. City have had a fair few shots at goal. They have taken the lead with their first attempt as De Bruyne's cross deflects off Ben Mee. And that'll be another corner for Manchester City, who trailed to Brentford once again. They've gone behind against Brentford in the last 3 games they've played against them, and they've lost the previous 2. Which is very clever from Tony. Looked like he was going to go and jump to win the header, but instead just let the ball go through and across him. As Foden volleys as the corner was cleared, and it comes off Yarnelt, and it'll be kept in by Alvarez on the far side. Quite away from goal here, the Argentine World Cup winner. He's not being pressed, so he's allowed to just bring the ball forward ever so slightly. It's now Bernardo Silva to Kevin De Bruyne. It's now in the centre circle to Ruben Diaz. He's got Ake to his left, Walker to his right. He'll play it to Kyle Walker. It's now to Bernardo Silva in the final third, 1-on-1 with Reguilon. Wants to get into his stronger left foot, and he does do so and goes back with a pass to Walker. Lifts it in for Foden. Header away by Ben Mee. Nodded down by Maupay for Yarnelt, who can hurry the ball away. Up to the halfway line where Ruben Diaz heads it forward. Controlled by Walker, but it's won back by Maupay. Ben Mee can't quite get control of that pass. Haaland's through. What a gift and what a save from Flecken. And cleared by Norgard. Huge chance for Haaland, who's waiting to score his first goal since late November. And he should have scored. Absolute gift from Brentford. Not taken by Manchester City, who are still on the attack here. De Bruyne in the area, on the right-hand side. Deflected cross, headed forward by Alvarez, and it's an easy and comfortable save for Flecken. And he's been on it tonight, Mark Flecken. He's had to make quite a few big saves. That was the biggest of them all. Yarnelt tried to play a ball back to Ben Mee, but he didn't go anywhere near the centre-half. He went through for Haaland instead, who was bearing down on goal. And 9 times out of 10, you'd fancy Haaland finishing that. He opened up his body to try and put it into the bottom left corner. But Flecken was equal to it, making himself as big as possible. As Brentford go long again, comes off the chest of Ake, and he goes back to Ederson, who'll just about reach it outside his area, ahead of Maupay. And it's now with Kyle Walker. He'll play a ball down the right channel, looking for Haaland, who peels out wide here. Pinnock follows him. It's Haaland right next to that corner flag on the far side. Kicks it off Pinnock. It deflects in towards the area where there's no Manchester City player running. And it'll go right through for Mark Flecken, who will play it to his right to Nathan Collins in the 18-yard area. It's now to Norgard, who shifts it away from Haaland, plays it forward for Jensen. Tony's peeled out to the left wing position, and they find him just inside the City half. Tony switches on towards Roerslev on the far side, on the near side. He's going to try and chase it to keep it in. And he does do... Oh, no, he hasn't. Flag goes up for offside. He may have kept it in, but I think the flag went up for offside as the ball was played towards him by Ivan Toney. And after watching Brentford the last couple of times, they do like those switched balls from one side to another. It's a Manchester City free kick, 25 minutes played. Brentford have the lead through Neil Maupay. And that is his first ever goal in his career against Manchester City for Neil Maupay. He hadn't scored in any of his last 7 against Manchester City. Ederson sends this long up towards Haaland. Header won by Collins instead. Gvardiol nods it inside looking for Rodri. Deflects away from him by Norgard. Headed forward by Ake. Nodded down by Collins. Lifted over the top by Jensen. Maupay will try and keep it in. He will do so, volleying it across towards Tony. Cut out by Diaz. And Rodri fires it out to the right to Walker, who's got loads of room in the Manchester City half to charge forward. And he enters the Brentford half here. The Manchester City captain goes inside to De Bruyne. Then back through for Walker, who gets the ball stuck under his feet, but it breaks to him in the box. Walker pulls it back, avoids Alvarez. Gvardiol, touch, And a shot, which again is saved by Flecken. He's on fire tonight, Brentford's number one. Good work there from down the right-hand side through De Bruyne and Kyle Walker. It fell fortunately for Kyle Walker as it deflects off the back of Ben Mee's leg. The cutback was for Alvarez. It went through to the edge of the area to Gavardio, who took a touch with his right foot and struck with his weaker foot towards the left-hand side of the goal, where Flecken went early and was there to save the shot. It's De Bruyne to take another corner. They've had plenty of these so far in the opening 26.5 minutes, Manchester City. As De Bruyne is going to have to wait as Jared Gillett is finding Neal Maupay on the floor in the 6-yard box. And he's going to have another conversation with him. It just gets a bit boring. Like, I don't know if anyone agrees with me. This is how I see corners, right? With the pushing and the shoving. Let them do it. Why are you stopping them and telling them to get off each... Like, if they do it when the corner's been taken, give a foul. Give a penalty, give a free kick, then they'll stop doing it. I don't get why they have to stop the game and have a word with them every time. Just tell them to stop. And if they do it in the box, just give a foul. De Bruyne eventually takes it, drops in the box for Rodri. Haaland tries, deflects off Jensen, it loops in the sky. And eventually headed away out to the right side by Roerslev. Back inside by Gavardio. Header won by Pinnock. Drops in the end for Bernardo Silva, who goes back here to Kyle Walker. It's on the edge of the centre circle in the Brentford half. And he quickly switches it out to that left wing for De Bruyne. Touches it down for Foden. De Bruyne again. Rodri turns away from Jensen. Plays it back out to the left to De Bruyne. Across to Diaz. It's now with Alvarez on the right wing. Bernardo Silva's furthest right. He's got everything to his left now. The former Monaco winger. Goes it back to Walker. First time cross. Headed by Collins. Comes off the chest of Jensen. And on the penalty spot, he can clear it away. Maybe a throw in for Manchester City on the halfway line. On this near side. I think we're going to get a stoppage in play as Jensen is currently winded, the Brentford central midfielder. Manchester City did lose 4 games last season away from home to Liverpool, Manchester United, Spurs and then Brentford on the final day. They have already lost 3. This would be their 4th, and if they lose, they would be 3 points behind Arsenal and 5 behind Liverpool, but would have 1 game in hand on them 2 teams. As Gavardio throws it down the line, finds Erling Haaland in the final third, running across the pitch, finding Foden on once more to Rodri. Now out wide right to Bernardo Silva in the corner of the box on the right-hand side. Back heels it to De Bruyne, who takes a touch and then crosses. It deflects off Reguilon. Another corner for Manchester City. I need to get a counter of how many corners they've had. This is getting quite ridiculous for Manchester City. They have had so many corners. This is corner number 8 already, and we've only played 29 minutes at the G-Tech Community Stadium. Surely they've got to make one of these work. De Bruyne, outswinger, right arm raised. He takes it. It's a deeper one this time. Gavardio goes for the header, won by me instead. It's now with Kyle Walker, who's got De Bruyne still on the right-hand side. He goes across to the left instead to Alvarez. Centre of the field, works it to the left here to Gavardio. Touch goes backwards, so he's chased down by Jensen, but he keeps possession to Bernardo Silva. Walker. Brentford have every man behind the ball currently. As Walker is midway inside the Brentford half. Out to the right to De Bruyne. Through for Bernardo Silva. Back for Walker. On the angle. Through for Alvarez. Swings at the ball and gets the shot off but doesn't catch it sweetly. Easy save for Flecken in the end. It's not quite coming together yet for Manchester City. You will have to be patient. Because Brentford are usually quite solid anyway when defending, usually. Not this season, they've been quite the opposite, but especially when they've got something to protect, it's going to be a little bit hard, especially at home, when they've got their home supporters backing them all the way here, Brentford. It's Rodri caught late there by Maupay on the halfway line, and that's going to be a booking. It will be for the current winner of the game, Neal Maupay. He's having a go at Rodri, and it looks like he has caught the Spaniard. Ball was played to Rodri by Gavardio. A little bit of a short one. And bit of a studs on the top of the foot of Rodri for Maupay. Sliding in, missing the ball. Yeah, a bit of aggressive there from Maupay. Right on the top of Rodri's foot. How Neal Maupay is trying to argue that Rodri is trying to milk that one is beyond me. Quite clearly a foul. Caught the top of his foot. Didn't get any of the ball. We're back underway. Rodri is okay as well. Ake has it. Back into Ruben Diaz. Now Walker. Inside the City half. Down the right-hand side to Bernardo Silva. Dispossessed by Reguilon. Yarnell back to me. Forward for Tony. Through the legs of Rodri to Norgard. Now looking for the run of Mopé. Goes beyond the Frenchman. And it's picked up by Gavardio. Forward for Foden. Turns away from Jensen. That's a silky smooth turn from Phil Foden. Who's still charging forward. Pokes it out to the left to Gavardio. Then back into Ake. Forward into the centre circle for Alvarez. Keeps the ball away from Norgard. Firing out to the right to Walker. Inside the Brentford half here. Almost into a midfield position here, Kyle Walker. Then out wide right to Bernardo Silva. In the final third. Outside the area. Ball through for De Bruyne. Blocked by me. Another corner once again for Manchester City. This is getting ridiculous how many corners they've had. I think this is number 9 for corners for Manchester City, I believe. As De Bruyne has took every single one, so they're persisting with the Belgian taking the corners. He tries to drift it out to the edge of the area, straight at Reguilon. That's shocking from De Bruyne. Reguilon can clear it down the Brentford left. Can't keep it in play, though, so throwing for Manchester City, about 10 yards inside the Brentford half. That's definitely a corner to forget for Kevin De Bruyne. We've definitely seen him take better than that. Currently on 104 Premier League assists, Kevin De Bruyne. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. He's so good. And it's great to see him back in the Premier League, performing so well. He's had a goal and 3 assists since his return. That goal, of course, coming to Newcastle away from home to get the comeback on. Equalising that one up and then providing the assist for the Oscar Bob winner. City still have it. Dispossessed though. Neil Mopé wins it off Kyle Walker, but then it's won back by Rodri. And then Yarnell wins it back from De Bruyne. It's now Ben Mee to his goalkeeper Flecken. Clears it first time. Left-footed up towards the halfway line. Nodded down by Walker for Bernardo Silva, who then goes all the way back towards Ederson. That's a flighted ball. Ederson comes for it, nods it down, looking for Diaz. Eventually drops towards Yarnell, who's tackled by Bernardo Silva. Fairly, says the referee. And Manchester City come away with the ball. Kyle Walker now entering the Brentford half, playing it for Foden. Across to the left to Gavardio. Now Rodri, heavy touch, just about shifts it back for Gavardio. Turns away from the option. Foden. Bernardo Silva enters the box. Walker's on the overlap. He goes inside himself. Bernardo Silva working the shots and over the bar it goes. I think Ben Mee is just telling Neil Mopé, because when Ederson headed that ball down and Yarnell was tackled by Bernardo Silva, Yarnell stayed down and Neil Mopé was too busy trying to get the City players to kick it out. And Ben Mee just told him, like, look, with the man's down, leave it alone. Cover his position for us, please. And Manchester City probably should have done a bit better with that, because they did have a man extra there as Yarnell has stayed down. They've showed they've showed that free kick. Sorry, I'm going too quick. They've shown that foul again from. It's not even a foul. Wow. They've shown that tackle from Bernardo Silva on Yarnell, which he had to get right, by the way, because Ederson was so far out of his goal. And it looks like he kind of catches both man and ball at the same time. I think you've just got to go with the referee's decision on that one. They're showing the goal, which was scored in the 21st minute by Mopé from a goal kick, straight forward, looking for Tony, who instead of going for the header, just let it go through, in behind him, for Neil Mopé, who stayed on side. And he entered the box and slotted it into the bottom left corner. It was very smart from Ivan Toney, who got Ake next to him. And Ake didn't go for the header as well. Ake just stood there with Toney, just watched the ball go over the top. And that's when Mopé could snatch in behind and score the goal to get his first ever against Manchester City. And he's decent goal scoring form at the moment, Neil Mopé. As Yarnell is back to his feet, a player who's featured in every game so far this season for Brentford. He's coming up to appearance, 150 for the club. He's on 145 now after tonight. Goal kick from Flecken. I think Yarnell will be reintroduced once the referee waves him back on. The goal kick flicked on backwards by Rodri. Ederson will come out and volley it forward, right back towards Flecken. Game of longies between the two goalkeepers here as Flecken has it outside of his 18-yard box. Will send it back forward, in behind again where Reguilon will chase it. I think Walker will get there first, and he goes into the 18-yard area for Ederson, who takes a touch and kicks it out of play with his right foot. Throw in for Brentford in the final third. Kyle Walker wasn't available for Ederson to find, so he's had to just fire it out of play. And I think Brentford are going to go for a long throw here. With Matthias Jensen, we know he has a long throw in after the game away at Tottenham. Put a few long throw-ins in himself. So here is Matthias Jensen, who will throw this into the 18-yard area. Throwing goes in. It finds Pinnock. Well, was going towards Pinnock, but came off Rodri last, and that'll be a corner for Brentford on the far side. It's what long throw-ins can do. It's not all about scoring from the long throw-ins, but if you can win a corner from them, then you can just keep piling the pressure on the opposition, and that's what Brentford are doing at the moment. So it's going to be Jensen to take it. It'll be a right-footed in-swinger. They're filling out the 6-yard box here, Brentford. It's got a couple of players elsewhere. They cross it in towards the near post. Header won by Tony. And straight over the top for another corner. Must have deflected after the header off Tony. Let's have a look. Ball went into the 6-yard box. Tony headed it off Diaz and out for a corner. So it'll be another set piece for Brentford on the opposite side this time. It won't be Jensen to take it. He stood in front of Ederson at the moment, but then Jensen comes out for a shorter option. It's Reguilon over it. He'll go short to Jensen. Then back to Reguilon on the angle, who meets the ball ahead of De Bruyne. Crosses it in, and it nearly goes all the way through. Palmed away by Ederson. Kept alive by Pinnock. Mope crosses. Cleared by Walker. Headed forward by Roerslev. Pinnock gets there ahead of Walker. Pinnock in a left wing position. Gets beyond Walker and crosses it off Walker and out for another corner for Brentford. Playing very well, the home side, and probably deserving of their lead, really. You know, they've defended Manchester City well and they've attacked well as well. As Reguilon came close to scoring on his first start for Brentford. Ederson was equal to it at the far post, pushing it away. So it's on the far side, so it'll be Jensen to take this one. Obviously, they're going for the in-swingers, Brentford. Jensen crosses, near post, headed away by Haaland. As far as Mope, who goes all the way back to the halfway line here to the goalkeeper, Flecken, who's in the centre circle at the moment. And he'll send it back forward. He floats it forward towards Ben Mee in the area. Goes beyond him and Gavardio. But Ben Mee will keep that in as he chased the ball down. Now with Pinnock, who crosses. Headed away by Ake. It'll fall to Roerslev midway side the City half. Goes back to Collins. Lifts it out to the right-hand side and finds Pinnock all alone. Good chested touch in front of him. Pinnock will cross it. Blocked by Gavardio and cleared by Foden. It's a bit of a slicer though. Only as far as the edge of the box where Bernardo Silva can flick it out to the right wing for Walker, who bursts beyond Jensen. And Walker will play it into Rodri on halfway. Brentford are getting bodies back as quickly as possible. Switched it out to the left now to Gavardio. Ake. De Bruyne forward for Foden. Now De Bruyne again as City build down this left-hand side at the moment. Foden sees a switch on towards Bernardo Silva. Won't reach him. Header won by Reguilon. Won't be kept in by the Spaniard. Goes out for a throw-in for Manchester City. Decent first start so far for Sergio Reguilon. On loan from Tottenham after making 12 appearances for Manchester United, as he spent half the season on loan there to start the campaign. Nathan Ake bringing it out from the back here for Manchester City. It's now Gavardio. Back inside for Ake. Gavardio again. in the final third. Across to Ake. Gvardiol again. Gvardiol finding De Bruyne, who lifts it in behind for Gvardiol, finds him perfectly. Gvardiol tries to square it, and it goes nowhere near Haaland. He may have been better to take the shot on there, Gvardiol. Found so well by De Bruyne. Just on the left-hand side, De Bruyne knowing exactly what weight to put on the pass. Oh my word, curling it in behind for Gvardiol, who got there ahead of Pinnock. And he had the option to square it or shoot. He goes to cross it because you can see him look up across to try and find a player, but it almost looks more like a shot. It was that far away from Erling Haaland, and Brentford have a goal kick. Taken by Flecken. Over Rodri. Headed forward by Diaz. Rodri goes back towards Ederson. It's a bouncer. Jensen's trying to chase him down. It goes all the way through towards Reguilon. And it has to be blocked by Diaz as Ederson was scurrying back to his goal. Walker down the right-hand side to De Bruyne, who just about enters the Brentford half. Inside for Alvarez. Back to De Bruyne. Now finds Rodri. He's just drifting out to this right-hand side. Rodri, 25 yards from goal. Surrounded by red and black shirts, and his pass is intercepted by Reguilon, who will wait for a little bit of support here. Can't get around Walker, though. He wins the ball back. And he keeps it in there, Walker. Flag stays down there by the assistant referee, Darren Can. It's now Rodri on halfway. Brentford have got everyone behind the ball at the moment. As Rodri scanning the pitch, finding Alvarez, who just peeled out to this left-hand side. He's got Gvardiol in support. He uses the former RB Leipzig defender, who then brings Ake into the play. Ake charging forward, edge of the box, playing it out wide left to Gvardiol, who will keep it in. Doesn't fancy the cross. Goes back to Alvarez. It's now Rodri again. Bernardo Silva's out wide right, and they'll find him this time. Good chested touchdown. One-on-one with Reguilon. Lays it off for De Bruyne. Into the area for Foden, takes it on the turn, finds Rodri, back towards Foden. He may have been better taking the shot on there, Rodri. His pass was intercepted, but they win it back. Foden, who's going to strike it. It's spilled by Flecken, and in behind it goes for a corner. That almost felt like, to me, Foden had just had enough and thought, don't know what word to use. Oh, they've gone short here, City, and it's deflected away by Norgard for a throw-in. Yeah, just like Foden just thought, you know what, I'm going to shoot here, I don't care what anyone says. And he just had the shot. Decent power. Straight at Flecken, who couldn't quite keep a hold of it. Manchester City still attack here as they try and get an equaliser before half-time, as we are a minute away from 45 being played. Walker just about avoids the foot of Ivan Toney to get it out to Rodri on the right-hand side. It's now into the path of Bernardo Silva towards the byline. Again, he's outside the area. Goes back towards Rodri, who keeps it away from Mope. Bernardo Silva again. Pretty isolated one-on-one with Jensen. Goes back to Diaz. Across to Foden. Now De Bruyne. Onto his right foot. Shoots towards the far corner, and again, tipped behind by Flecken. In fairness, I feel like these are saves that you would expect the goalkeeper to make, but that doesn't take away that they aren't still impressive. You know, he's got down low there to his left to tip the ball behind, but it's one of them, if he does concede that shot, you probably ask questions of how he didn't get there. He's already made 9 saves tonight as De Bruyne puts it towards the edge of the area. Bernardo Silva volleys, and it's a key block off Pinnock, and it's out for another corner once again as we hit 45. Ake blocked Reguilon, so Bernardo Silva had the go at the shot, and I think it actually came off the head of Roslev, as we've got 3 minutes added on here. De Bruyne, low ball in, Pinnock doesn't deal with it well, and then De Bruyne takes down Yarnell, and that'll be a free kick for Brentford as De Bruyne is having a go at Yarnell, believing he tried to buy that free kick, and the referee did buy it. It's been a half of frustration for Manchester City, as they are 1-0 down at the moment through Neil Mope. That Bernardo Silva strike, which came off Roslev. He didn't know much about it. It was definitely going towards that top right corner, so it needed to be blocked because Flecken looked like he could have been struggling with that one. Long ball forward from the free kick. Headed forward by Diaz, all as far as Norgard. Cleared by Walker. Haaland, chest down to Rodri. Lifts it forward for De Bruyne. Can get it away from Collins to Haaland. Foden, out to the right to Bernardo Silva. 2 minutes of the half to play. Bernardo Silva, inside to Rodri. Back out to Bernardo Silva in that final third. 1-on-1 with Ben Mee. Goes to the edge of the area to Rodri. Lets it go across his body. Fires it to Foden. Now to Ake on the edge of the box. It's all getting a bit congested for Manchester City. As they find Rodri again. Lifts it through towards Alvarez. Header away by Collins, To Yarnell. Forward to Tony. Out wide left to Mopé in the City half. He's got Walker on his back. Mopé forced backwards himself into his own half for Ben Mee. And across to Pinnock. And then back to Flecken. And Brentford looks like they could be surviving until half-time here. Flecken goes long over the top of the City defence, straight through for Ederson. As the Blues have got 1 minute left of this 3 minutes of additional time. It's now with Rodri, midway inside the Brentford half, centre of the field. Playing out to the right to De Bruyne, who's going to cross it. Pinnock heads it down, only as far as Foden, who controls it and shoots it into the back of the net. And after a first half which has had so much frustration for Manchester City, they eventually break through and score. It looked like Mark Flecken was unbeatable tonight, making so many saves for Brentford. But the goal comes from Rodri, playing it out to that right-hand side to De Bruyne, who went for a cross, and it wasn't going towards anyone. Pinnock almost panics, thinking he has to head it away because surely Haaland's running in behind me. Haaland never made the run, so Pinnock won the header, a little bit off balance, so it fell straight to Foden on the penalty spot, who took a really nice touch to set himself and to get the shot away with his left foot towards that right-hand side of the goal. It's not fully in the corner, but he almost deceived Flecken because Flecken moved the opposite way before he could readjust. The ball had already hit the back of the net on the other side. And in added on time in the first half, it's Brentford 1, Manchester City 1, Phil Foden with the equaliser. As he has now scored in 3 of his last 5 games against Brentford. Phil Foden. His second away at the G-Tech Community Stadium. The last one came in December 2021. Now he scores in February 2024 as Walker balling behind down the right for De Bruyne. Haaland charging into the area. He looks for him. It's well blocked by Collins. Drops to the edge of the area to Mee. And that is where the referee will blow for half-time. So nearly went from bad to worse there for Brentford, who have conceded late on in the half, and they certainly didn't want to go down at half-time because I don't think they would have deserved that. But at the break, it's Brentford 1, Manchester City 1. The goal scoring started in the 21st minute. Neal Mopé latching onto the end of a Mark Flecken goal kick, which was seen through in behind the City defence as Ivan Toney dummied the ball, went to pretend to go and win the header, but instead let it go through to Neal Mopé, who got a nice touch in front of him and then just shifted it slightly to his right to create a bit of an angle for himself. And as he entered the area, he slotted it into the bottom left corner beyond Ederson, who hasn't kept a clean sheet against Brentford in his last 3 now. And that goal did not change the flow and the pattern of the game. Manchester City continue to dominate. And with their 17 shots and 10 on target, one of them eventually hit the back of the net right on half-time. De Bruyne had the ball on the right-hand side, just outside the area, went for that angled cross, which is very famous for De Bruyne. We know how dangerous those crosses can be. He was aiming towards Haaland, who never made the run towards the far post, but Ethan Pinnock still decided to try and head the ball away. Didn't head it far enough. Straight to Foden on the penalty spot, who could control with the right foot, slot home with the left. And at half-time here at the G-Tech Community Stadium, it is Brentford 1, Manchester City 1. I mean, you felt like that goal was coming at some point, but for Brentford to concede it so late in this first half is going to be frustrating for them, but they've got to park that frustration and realise they are level in the game. And you know, when they go forward, they have looked to have unnerved Manchester City. Ederson looks a bit shaky at times, having to come outside of his area. So as long as Brentford can continue the way they're playing, when they do get on the ball, they can still cause Manchester City problems. But unfortunately for Brentford, Manchester City are going to be causing them problems all the way through the game. Like I say, 17 shots, 10 on target, 9 saves from Mark Flecken. 9 saves. That is absolutely ridiculous. And a lot of them were decent saves. I did say before that they're saves you would expect him to make, but that doesn't mean they're not good saves. Like, he's had to get down low to each side, pluck some from the top corner. Walker's had a strike from afar. Alvarez had 2 towards the right-hand side of the goal, which was saved well. He saved one on Gvardiol as well, who's looking for his first Manchester City goal. So it's probably been a half where both sides will probably go in quite a little bit frustrated. I think Brentford will go in frustrated just with the fact that they've conceded so late in the half. I think Manchester City will go in frustrated just mainly because, yes, they've got about level, but they probably think they should have had about 5 goals already with the amount of times they've peppered the Brentford goal. But football isn't like that. You're not given goals at any point. You've got to really, especially in the Premier League, you've got to make sure you get that ball in the back of the net, because you might, on any given day, you could come up against a really good goalkeeper. You might hit the woodwork a couple of times. You might be offside. Whatever it is, this time for City, they're coming up against a goalkeeper who's just on form at the moment. But thanks to everyone who is here. If you could like and subscribe, that'd be absolutely fantastic. As I mentioned before, 2 more commentaries coming within the midweek. Got Rangers Aberdeen tomorrow from 8 o'clock, and we've got Aston Villa Chelsea on Wednesday from 8 o'clock, and then we've got 2 coming up on Sunday, which is Coventry Millwall in the Championship at 12, and then we are covering Aston Villa again at home against Manchester United in the Premier League. So 4 more commentaries coming up on the channel this week, so make sure you subscribe and like so you know when those live streams are happening. But we have had 2 goals in this first half, and Brentford haven't conceded, and Brentford haven't drawn in any of their last 8 games at home in the Premier League. They've won 4 and lost 4 of the last 8. And Brentford have only kept 1 clean sheet in their last 11 Premier League games so far this season, and that came against Burnley in October. And before this game, Brentford had only failed to score in 1 game so far this season at home in the Premier League, and that came against Arsenal in November, where they lost 1-0, and that was through a late goal. Arsenal struggled here as well earlier on in the season. Kai Havertz came on and scored late to get the win. So teams like Cities and your Arsenals and your Liverpools will struggle when they come to Brentford, because they set up so deep but then can spring forward so quickly and press so high. It's challenging to deal with for any given team, especially the best teams in the league. Well, they'll be slightly frustrated, Brentford, that they have conceded late on in that first half to go in at the break at 1-1. But loads of positives for them to take. Like I say, if you haven't subscribed and liked, please do. It's 2 clicks of a button that takes 2 seconds, and it really does help the channel out. But this is only the 18th meeting between these two, by the way. There's not a lot of history in this fixture, mainly for the fact that Brentford haven't been near the top flight for quite a while before being promoted in 2021. They returned for the first time since the 1946-47 season. But their only draw in the previous 17 games was a 0-0 draw back in March 1936. So we do not get many draws in this fixture. As by the way, when the goal kick was taken, Ivan Toney may have been stood in an offside position, and Neil Maupay may have been as well. But from a goal kick, you can't be offside. A bit like a throw-in. Goal kicks are the same. You can't be offside from a goal kick. So Ivan Toney comes back from an offside position and goes to play the ball, or looks like he's going to play the ball. That is allowed. You can be offside from a goal kick. So it's just very smart forward play, because Ivan Toney pinned in Ake, so Ake couldn't go for the ball either. Went through for Maupay. And in the end, really, it's pretty sloppy defending, really, from Manchester City. I mean, Ake, you can have a bit of sympathy for, because he's just been pinned in by Toney. But the fact that Rodri, Gvardiol and Diaz have just let Maupay run through on his own, that is poor. But it is very composed finishing from Maupay, who's got 2 in his last 2 games now, which is very impressive. 4 of his 5 have come at home. His previous goals at home came against West Ham, Luton and Forest. So he has actually got 3 in his last 3 in the Premier League. He also scored 2 in the FA Cup against Wolves, where they had to go to a replay at Molineux, where they were unfortunately beaten in that FA Cup third round. But for Maupay, he is now 2 away from 50 goals for Brentford. He got 41 in his first spell, where he played 95 games for them. This is now his 114th game for Brentford, and he's on 48 goals. And it's just frustrating for Brentford more with the way the goal's been conceded, because when De Bruyne puts that crossing on the edge of the area from that right side, I mean, it's not out wide right, it's on the edge of the area, just on the angle, and he's crossing for Haaland, and he's not even attacking it, so Pinnock could have let the ball go through, and they probably would have won a goal kick. But if that's communication, or Pinnock not really checking his shoulder to know if Haaland's making a run, he just instinctively really just tries to head the ball away because he's just scared of what's behind him. And the header isn't good enough. He's slightly off balance as he jumps. The header's all wrong. It just loops in the air straight to the penalty spot where Foden brought it down and finished superbly. And for what's frustrating about it with Ethan Pinnock, he's so consistent, I find it, Ethan Pinnock. He's played every minute so far this season in the Premier League for Brentford, and there's a reason. In the middle of that back 3, next to me and Collins or whoever he may have to play alongside in that back 3, he's always there, blocking shots, getting across, covering his teammates if needed. You know, he's quite tall as well at 6'4", but still has a good amount of pace. And it's just unlike him to make an error like that, Ethan Pinnock. He's usually, well, he's very consistent, but that time he's just miscued his header and gave Foden quite an easy chance, which he took very well. Foden made it look very easy the way he brought it down and finished. But Ethan Pinnock did get the winner between these two in the last game at the G-Tech Community Stadium. It was just a 1-0 win on the final day of the season in the 85th minute. And if he scores again today, Ethan Pinnock will be his 10th goal for Brentford. So he's waiting to try and reach double figures for the club. A club he's been at since July 2019, joining from Barnsley. Won promotion from the National League with Forest Green only as recently as 2017. So that was only, 6.5 years ago. He was playing in the 5th tier. Now the 30-year-old's playing in the Premier League consistently, playing every minute for Brentford. The second half will be getting underway in a couple of minutes' time. Seems like this game's flying by. Even half-time feels like it's gone really quickly. As this result at the moment for Manchester City keeps them in third, 2 points off Arsenal with 49, and then they would be 4 points off Liverpool, who are top at the moment on 51. Frustrating as well with the De Bruyne cross, which was headed by Pinnock to Foden, because I don't think De Bruyne will get the points for the assist. No, he won't on fantasy football, but he will get the points goal. He will get the points for me for the goal, Foden. I've got him in my team. But a big mistake I've made in fantasy this week. For some reason at the moment, he's one of my favourite players in football, and I actually want to get a Wolves shirt with him on the back because I just love him that much. I don't know what it is about him. I just think he's a great player, and that's Matheus Cunha. And I've been looking for a while to get a Wolves. I don't support Wolves at all, far from it. But I just think he's class. Because I really like Gary O'Neill, the Wolves manager. Like, I'm a big fan of him, huge fan. I loved what he did at Bournemouth. He was wrongfully sacked. Yes, Bournemouth are doing well, in fairness, with Andoni Iraola. I'm so glad he got a job in the Premier League, and the way he's made Wolves play, I just love it. And the role Cunha has, he showed it, didn't it? Yesterday, he's scoring a hat trick. And as much as I love him, I didn't put him in my team. He was on my bench, so unfortunately, I've got 17 points from Cunha sat on my bench on fantasy, and it honestly, just looking at it makes me want to cry. But I love Matheus Cunha for Wolves, and I will never bench him again. He's going to play every game for me now in my fantasy because I'm not making that mistake. But I've got 6 points there from Foden, who's in my team, which is always nice as well. I've got De Bruyne, so De Bruyne goal or assist would do no harm for my fantasy football team. Can Manchester City build from that goal? It's almost come at the wrong time, half-time, because Manchester City were dominating the full half, in fairness, but the fact they've just scored, and they had a chance as well, right at the end of that half, where Walker found De Bruyne down the right-hand side and he crossed it towards Haaland and it was cut out in the end. So it's almost come at the wrong time for City, but I'm sure it won't make a difference to Manchester City. They'll just come out again and dominate the possession. But saying that, they've got to be careful because we know Brentford are dangerous on the break and through set pieces and just long balls in general, which their goal came from. The goal came from a goal kick all the way through. Shows how direct they can be. And they've got a really good partnership up there. They've got the taller player of Ivan Toney and the smaller player of Neil Maupay. Works that combination of a tall player and a small player. A very iconic duo in the Premier League we've had in the past with tall and small forwards playing with each other. The thing is, Brentford. I say Brentford need points. That's been a bit dramatic. There are 16 more Premier League games after today, but Brentford are only, if they were to draw this game, they're only 4 points off the relegation zone. And I'm not saying for 1 second Brentford will get relegated because I think they will have enough to stay up, especially when they have Johan Wissa returning from the African Cup of Nations and when they have Mbeumo return from injury. They'll be absolutely fine, I think. But nothing's given in the Premier League. No one survives off merit or who they have got in their team. You've got to go out there and get the points and get the results. So they've just got to be careful, Brentford, that they don't just slip down there and hover for too long. As for Brentford and Manchester City, Brentford's next game, they've got to go to Wolves again. They've played Wolves. It'll be their 4th time playing Wolves in quite quick succession, really. We commentated on their home game against Wolves in the Premier League where they were beaten 4-1. What I believe that was in December or November. November or December. And they've played each other twice in the FA Cup and then they've got to play each other again. Travelling again away from home to Molineux. That's on the 10th of February, and then they've got 2 difficult games, Brentford. The next one after that is Liverpool at home, which they probably fancy, actually, playing Liverpool at home. Because I know they've beaten Liverpool at home before in a previous season. And then they've got to play Manchester City again midweek, because both of City's game in hands are against Brentford. I mentioned it before, but when Manchester City were at the Club World Cup, the game that they had postponed was Brentford. So they've got to play Brentford twice in quick succession. The next game against them in 15 days at the Etihad. So both sets of players are back out for this second half, as we've only had 1 draw in the previous 17 between these two in the history of the fixture. What will we get for this second half? Will Manchester City get themselves in a very favoured position in the title race, or will they be pegged back by Brentford as they kick off, kicking right to left? City left to right, high ball forward by Pinnock, comes off Maupay, controlled by Rodri, deflects off Toney for Jensen, who sends it forward. It's a high ball. Toney can nod it backwards towards Jensen, too far behind him. It's now with Alvarez to Rodri, midway inside his own half, goes out to the left to Gavardio. Ake forces it back out wide here for Garvadio in a left-back position. Down the line it goes, curls inside, can't find Haaland, cut out by Pinnock. It's now Norgard on halfway. Forward for Maupay, comes off Alvarez. Diaz out to Bernardo Silva on the right-hand side, and it's City back in possession. And it's out to the right to Walker. In the final third here. Not being pressed by Reguilon. He's been forced back here to Ruben Diaz. Forward for Alvarez. It's now De Bruyne. Can't flick it through for Alvarez in the area. Cut out by Ben Mee. Clearance isn't great by Reguilon, and that touch isn't great by Maupay. Won back by Manchester City on the edge of the area. It's now with Rodri. Gets beyond Maupay. Bernardo Silva to Walker. Alvarez. Rodri. Back to Ruben Diaz. Bernardo Silva on this near side. 1-on-1 with Reguilon. Inside to De Bruyne. Back for Walker. He wants to cross. And he will cross straight off the head of Ben Mee. And out for a Manchester City throw-in on this near side. Good defending there by Ben Mee. Walker been forced back into his own half here to number 3, Ruben Diaz. It's now across to the City left with Foden, about 10 yards inside the Brentford half. Leaves it for Ake. Back forward for Foden. Alvarez just loses the touch there. Norgard picks it off him. Mopé to Tony. Back for Jensen and into the path of Roerslev. He will charge forward into the City half. Goes for a ball across, looking for Reguilon, where it's cut out by Walker on the edge of the area. Then Diaz out wide to Bernardo Silva, and Manchester City deal with Brentford's first half attack of the half. Phil Foden gliding across the pitch, then back heeling it for Rodri, who goes forward and out to the left here for De Bruyne. It's Gvardiol. It's now Rodri, 30 yards from goal. Plenty of bodies in front of him, so go back out wide left for De Bruyne. Lifts the ball into the box. Header won by Collins. Always finds Rodri on the edge of the box. He will strike it himself, blocked by Pinnock. Falls for Tony, who goes down over the challenge. Oh, referee. Oh, our referees are so bad. Tony, I swear, Tony is already falling down before Diaz goes near him. Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. So Ivan Toney puts his back towards Diaz to try and instigate some contact to win a free kick. And Ivan Toney already starts falling before Diaz even touches him. It's so embarrassing refereeing. They buy anything, these referees, honestly. As long as it, coincides with the rules of the game, anything that looks like a foul, they just give it. They don't even know if it is a foul. It's just shocking. But City have won it back in their own half. Alvarez moves it on to Bernardo Silva. Walker is charging forward on the overlap. Tries to find him. Deflects off Reguilon. Alvarez will take over, but then tackled again by Reguilon on the edge of the box. Key defending from the Spaniard. Pretty poor from Bernardo Silva with the fact he couldn't find Kyle Walker's run. Because if he did, that was a certain goal or a certain huge chance for Walker. It's now with Mopé on the left wing. In the final third. Enters the box. 1-on-1 with Diaz. Can't take him on. Diaz can avoid the corner. Kicks it out for a throw-in on the near side. Good defending there from Ruben Diaz. And by the way, the most he's ever played in a Premier League season, Ruben Diaz, is 32 games. Never completed a full 38 games in a season. He's only played in 17 of the first 21 this season for City. So be Jensen to take it. Jensen does have a long throw. He showcased that in the first half. He doesn't always go long with his throws. But he will with this one. 5 minutes into the second half, we're yet to see a Brentford attempt at the City goal. As Jensen will throw it into the near post. Flicked away by Rodri. Headed in by Yarnelt. Headed won by Foden. De Bruyne will chase it. Roerslev forward for Reguilon. Can't find Jensen out wide left. Headed forward by Bernardo Silva. Flicked on for Foden, who beats Collins to it. An Alvarez ball. Can't quite find Haaland. And Ben Mee clears it in behind for Tony. The flag will stay down at the moment. Tony on the right-hand side, enters the box, cuts it back, comes off the head of Ake. Flag remains down, but doesn't matter anyway, because City have still got the ball with Foden, who on the halfway line switches it out to De Bruyne on the right, which is cut out by the head of Reguilon. And it's a throw-in for Manchester City inside the Brentford half on the near side. Throws back into his own half here for number 16, Rodri, who's making his 235th appearance tonight for Manchester City. Rodri, scoring 23 goals. He's got 2 in his last 3 in the Premier League, scoring right after half-time against Burnley in the last game at the Etihad. It's now with City with Alvarez, 25 yards from goal. He's got Norgard in front of him. Not closing him down, but just following his every step there, Christian Norgard. It's now with Diaz to Alvarez again. Just not finding any gaps here, Manchester City at the moment, but they're being patient and they're being persistent with their passing. Foden, just to the left-hand side of the box, goes across to Diaz. And now with Nathan Ake, bit of time, bit of space for him to move forward ever so slightly and find Gavardiol to his left. So now Ake back across to Diaz, midway side the Brentford half. Finds De Bruyne, who again's peeled out to his left-hand side. Foden, forward for Alvarez, back towards Foden, can't keep it away from Yarnelt. Ball will go for a Manchester City throw-in as it's cleared by Roerslev. De Bruyne can take it quickly here, and he finds Ake. De Bruyne, Foden. Will they go from left to right here, Manchester City? Foden will go back to Diaz, then across to the right to Walker. Skips beyond Jensen. Bernardo Silva on his left foot goes across to Diaz. 1-2 with Rodri. Diaz again on the ball. About 25 yards from goal. Out to the near side for Bernardo Silva. 1-on-1 with Reguilon. Back into Walker. Across to Diaz. It's Kyle Walker again. Switching it back out to the left for Ake. De Bruyne on his right foot. Works across in towards Foden. He flicks it on! And that is a beautiful brace for Phil Foden. It's such a well-guided header beyond Mark Flecken. And Manchester City have the lead at Brentford. Kevin De Bruyne is just so inevitable. Whenever he's on the ball, you just know that at any given second, he'll find a cross which finds a teammate who more likely will find the back of the net. And from behind, Manchester City are ahead. Phil Foden with both. They were being so patient there, Manchester City, trying to work something on the right-hand side. It wasn't coming off, so they went back out to the left, where De Bruyne, with his right foot, crosses it in, all on his own. Phil Foden finds the header, just has to bend down so slightly to glance the header on towards the bottom right corner. Flecken was scrambling, couldn't keep it out of the back of the net, could only palm it into the side of the goal. And Phil Foden gets his second of the game. It's now 4 in 5 against Brentford. And it's Brentford 1, Manchester City 2. Phil Foden with both. Kevin De Bruyne with that assist. It's so beautiful to watch. It really is. De Bruyne has now got four assists since his return to the Manchester City squad. And you just can't help but be mesmerised by his passing from the 32-year-old, who provides his 105th assist in the Premier League. And he's bursting away here again. Dispossessed on halfway, though, by Ben Mee. To Reguilon, just about moves it on from De Bruyne. And then Pinnock goes back to Flecken. And Brentford now behind again. They went ahead against Tottenham as well in their last game. And were pegged back, and Tottenham led 3-1 at one point. City just the 2-1 up at the moment. As it's with the Brentford left wing back of Reguilon. Forced to go backwards to Ben Mee in the defensive third here for Brentford. Back to Flecken. In his 6-yard box, clips it over to the right to Collins. Chests it down. Lifts it over Foden for Jensen. Touches it away from Alvarez and goes inside to Norgard. Good play here from Brentford. And he sprays it out to the left here to Reguilon. Into the Manchester City half. He sees a ball in behind for Tony. He's going to look for him. Deflects off Ake. Roerslev takes it on. And he hits the advertisement boards behind the goal. Not quite sure what technique he was going for there, Mads Roerslev. Just sliced it. Good ball from Reguilon. It was an early cross. Not really dealt with by Ake. And in the area, Roerslev latched onto it. And yeah, just sliced it with his outside of the right foot. Couple of yards wide in the end as it stays Brentford 1, Manchester City 2. Long ball from Manchester City. Finding Erland down the left flank. Gets there ahead of Pinnock. And brings Foden into play. As Foden is in some fantastic form at the moment. He's got 7 now in the Premier League. 13 in all competitions. Equaling his tally for the whole of last season in all competitions. Only getting better and better, Phil Foden. And still at the age of 23. Midway side of the Brentford half. It's Alvarez. Shifts it to his right to De Bruyne. 22 yards from goal. He's going to go for a shot himself, which deflects. And it goes into the hands of Flecken. Does have the one goal, De Bruyne, so far this season. On his return against Newcastle. Brentford build from the back with their left centre-back of Ben Mee. Lifts it forward towards the halfway line. Prodded away by Diaz to Walker. Inside to Rodri, who lets it bounce and then tackled by Norgard. Gavardio keeps it away from Jensen. Straight to Foden, who can release the shot from the edge of the box. It's blocked by Collins. Loose ball drops for Jensen, who volleys it clear. Looking for Mope. Headed down by Ake. And then Gavardio has loads of time to spin and find a forward pass for City. He instead goes back to Rodri. Alvarez goes back to Diaz. All Brentford plays behind the ball as Diaz is about 50 yards away from goal. Goes to his right to Walker. Pass forward to Foden. Flicks it behind him to Alvarez. Into the path of Rodri. A little bit of a step over there from Rodri. Getting away from Jensen. Finding Gavardio, who takes the touch. Gets onto his right foot. Then goes back to Ake. That's now De Bruyne. Across to the right to Walker. And that's the special thing about De Bruyne. You find him popping up on the left-hand side, the right-hand side. He's just so unpredictable. You don't know where you'll find him. And you just know whichever side he's on, the cross will be as equally as dangerous. Ake down the left-hand side. Lays it off for Gavardio in the final third. He is the furthest left for City, so everything to his right. Goes behind him to Rodri, who then finds the pass forward to De Bruyne. Out to the right to Bernardo Silva. One-on-one with Reguilon. Lays it behind him to Walker. Crosses first time. It's a deep one towards Gavardio, who tries to get it across goal. But straight out of play for a corner. Touch must have come off Roerslev last. And he's had a strong game so far. I think Josko Gavardio, who signed in the summer for £77 million. He's been very calm and composed when forward for City in those final third areas. Not rushing anything. Doesn't look like he's panicking, to get the cross in or to find the pass. He's just keeping it calm on that left-hand side for City. So it'll be De Bruyne, who's already provided one assist, and he was pretty vital to the first goal. His cross was the one that was headed away by Pinnock straight to Foden for his first goal. He gets the corner back to himself as the header away can only go far as De Bruyne, and his second cross is collected by Flecken. And he rolls out to the edge of the box here to Mee. I love saying Ben Mee, because it is funny, isn't it? When you say me, it's like you're talking about yourself. I don't think I could ever make it in the Premier League, never mind as a centre-back. I don't think I can make it. Martinez gets criticised for being a small centre-back for United. I'm a little bit smaller than him, so I don't think I would survive centre-back for the Premier League. I think my time's passed to become a Premier League footballer. I don't think the time was ever there anyway. As it is Brentford still on the ball inside their own half, and it's not anymore. Ball forward by Pinnock, it's a high one. Controlled down by Tony. Strong tackle on one by Gavardio. But Diaz gives it away. Norgard midway inside the City half. Out to the left here to Reguilon. He's got the overlap of Yarnell. Reguilon will cross it himself. It's a deep one. Tony will latch onto it. It deflects to Norgard. And that's a key block from Ruben Diaz. And it goes behind for a corner. Half an hour to play. Brentford's captain on his 150th appearance for the club. Almost scoring. Reguilon again with an earlier cross, causing havoc. Tony volleyed it back across after the deflection off Ake. And even if the ball went through Diaz, I think Ederson would have been equal to it. But it's still a good block from Diaz nonetheless. As Christian Norgard's looking for his second Premier League goal of the season. Would have been his first at home. His other one came away against Forest in October. So it's going to be Matthias Jensen with it. It's going to be a right-footed in-swinger on the near side. Again surrounding the 6-yard box. Flicks onto the far post. And it just avoids Pinnock. The header was won by Norgard. And I think it just went behind the Jamaican Ethan Pinnock. And he went beyond everyone for a goal kick. Yeah, just over the head of Pinnock in the end. And seen behind for a goal kick. Almost for Brentford. And I said this before at 1-1, and it remains the same for 2-1. They won't have a lot of the ball, Brentford, but when they do get it, they will look dangerous. They're so efficient going from back to front, getting those early crosses in towards the likes of Ivan Toney and Neil Mope. As Ederson's ball low to Foden, can't be flicked on. Jensen helps it forward, can't find Tony on the edge of the box. Brought away by Rodri. Goes back to Gavardiol in a left-back position. He tries to turn forward. Tackle by Tony. Loose ball drops for Yarnell. Keeps it out on the right-hand side for Tony, who will work a cross in, which comes off Foden. And that'll be a corner kick on the far side for Brentford as Thomas Frank is getting the home support up for this one. Wasn't actually a great start for Thomas Frank when he was in charge of Brentford. He only got 1 win in his first 10. But now he's brought them from Championship to the Premier League. And they have only got 1 win in their last 9 at the moment in all competitions, which has led them to being 4 off the relegation zone. As Reguilon in swinger. Bit deeper this time, flicked on by Ake to Mope. And it had to be blocked by Gavardiol. And the ball will run through for a throw-in on the opposite side. Some big blocks coming in from Manchester City to keep this 1-goal lead. It's a good crossing by Reguilon. Not a great header from Ake as it went straight through for Mope, who could volley with his right foot inside of his boot towards the far corner. And before it could get to Ederson, it was blocked by Gavardiol. But Brentford can keep the pressure coming here as they've got a throw-in. And it's going to be a long one from Matthias Jensen. Jensen throws it in to the near post. Headed away by Rodri and volleyed by Alvarez before it could be volleyed forward by Reguilon. It's now Mope, who's been forced back to Flecken. De Bruyne is chasing it. Flecken on the edge of his box sends it back forward down the Brentford right. Chested down by Gavardiol. Room to run into now as he enters the Brentford half. Lays it off for Foden. Brentford have got plenty of bodies back as Manchester City get their players forward. Manchester City, again, no away clean sheet. They've only kept 2 clean sheets away from home this season in the Premier League. On the opening day to Burnley and then most recently in October to Manchester United. De Bruyne on the edge of the box. Deflects through to Yarnell, who hurries the ball away. Just a panicked clearance there from Yarnell on the edge of the box. He had more time than he thought. He wasn't surrounded by any blue shirts. And he's just given Manchester City possession again, which is not what you want to do. They have enough of the ball anyway, Manchester City. You don't need to give it back to them. Ake out to the left to De Bruyne. Ake again, midway inside the Brentford half. Goes forward for Foden. Lays it off for Rodri. Outside the box, he goes for a shot towards the far corner. Easily saved for Flecken. Not his finest attempt there from Rodri. Pretty easily dealt with in the end there by Flecken, who throws out to the left centre-back of me. Now for Reguilon at left wing-back. Back for me. It's now with Pinnock on the edge of the 18-yard box. It's now with Flecken in the Brentford goal. Me at left centre-back. Down the line for Reguilon, just about kept in, tries to go around the corner, but finds Rodri and not Mope. Quickly forward for Haaland, on for De Bruyne, tries to square it for Foden, well blocked there for Brentford, and then Ben Mee forward for Tony. Got Diaz following him, and Diaz can touch it away from him, and he finds De Bruyne, through towards Haaland, can't get it into the path of the Norwegian. And it's dealt with by Norgard, out wide left for Reguilon. Inside for Norgard, keeps it away from Alvarez. Now with Ben Mee in the defensive third for Brentford. Forward for Norgard. Out wide left for Reguilon. Nice ball for Mope in the City half. Tony's left wing. And he finds him. Here is Ivan Toney. Early cross with his left foot. Flicked on by Roerslev. Jensen. Mope takes over. Back to goal. Finds Norgard on the edge. Whose shot's blocked by Rodri. And it'll deflect. In play. It curls in. And it's Mope on the ball. To Collins. Just outside the final third here, Nathan Collins goes forward here for Roerslev. And then back for Mope. Left-footed ball in behind for Tony on the volley. It's over the bar. Not sure if the flag went up there. Really good find from Mope on his weaker left foot to find Ivan Toney at the far post. Who's just fallen off balance. He was able to get a right-footed volley on it. But over the bar it went. Let's have a look. Mope was almost in a wing-back position. Tony timed his run well. Outside the area. He was onside. And if he was able to wrap his foot around that ball into the top corner, it would have been a goal that stood for Brentford, but it stays 2-1 Manchester City. Flecken clears it. Headed out wide right by Mope to Jensen. Rösler's overlapping. Jensen goes for the early cross himself. Easily caught by Ederson, who rolls it out almost immediately for Rodri, who is looking forward for the next pass. Alvarez is peeling out wide to the right-hand side, and he finds him here on this near side. About 10 yards inside the Brentford half. Not necessarily rushing this ball forward, Alvarez. Slows the game down here for De Bruyne. Back to the halfway line to Walker. And across to Ruben Diaz. It's now Nathan Ake. But Manchester City's next game against their top 7 team is in March, the 2nd of March, which is almost a month away, where they take on Manchester United at home. So they've got some easier fixtures coming up, you could say. They have got Champions League coming up very shortly. Next week against Copenhagen, away from home. Ake lifts it over the top for Alvarez. In the box on the left-hand side, on the angle. Back to goal. Being forced away by Nathan Collins. Tries to find Rodri. Slightly overhits the pass, but De Bruyne keeps it away from Tony. It's now with Walker. Back out to the right-hand side to De Bruyne. It's Walker again to De Bruyne. Back to the halfway line here for Ruben Diaz. It's now with Ake. Brings it forward. Lays it off to his left to Alvarez. Not quite been as involved as he would have liked, Alvarez, tonight. He had a couple of shots early on in the first half, but he's been a little bit isolated in the game as he finds the ball here on the left-hand side again through Foden. It's now with Ake, 30 yards from goal. Across to Rodri. Clips it into the right-wing position of Bernardo Silva, who keeps the ball away from Reguilon. It's now Ake to Ruben Diaz in the centre circle. Alvarez, who's peeling out left to receive the ball, bringing it forward. Finding Foden, 1-2 of Alvarez, gets caught behind him, but he deflects to Gvardiol, who crosses for Haaland over his head, and controlled by Reguilon as he races out of the 18-yard box and plays it out to Mope. Then back for me. He's got Haaland closing him down, he sends it forward, Ben Mee straight to the chest of Foden, and then Rodri goes back to Ake on halfway, and with 21 minutes to play, Brentford still trail by 1-2. A double from Phil Foden, who loves scoring against Brentford, and he could have a hat-trick. He gets found here for Haaland. Foden in the area! And he has a hat-trick. Phil Foden has been nothing short of incredible tonight for Manchester City. And he scores a hat-trick. It's his second of his career. It's his first ever hat-trick away from home. His first came in a 6-3 Manchester derby win. And now he's scored here in what is currently a 3-1 win at Brentford. And it's just the way he ghosts into the area, almost like he can't be seen. He makes it look that easy. Rodri went forward to Haaland on the edge of the box, who found a pass to his left to Foden, who was making that run into the area. Haaland found him. He might not be scoring at the moment, Haaland, but he's brought out an assist there. Just a simple pass. Perfectly waited for Foden to latch onto it, who just burst into the box. Unfazed. Not worrying if a tackle came. And he didn't have to worry, because no tackle came towards him. Just strolled into the box. One-on-one with the goalkeeper. Left-footed, bottom left corner. Easy as you like. It's Brentford 1, Manchester City 3. And Phil Foden has a second career hat-trick. Just so easy for him. That was weird. The way he got the ball on the edge of the box and just strolled forward. It's like they were scared to challenge him. And in the end, it made for an easy finish and an easy hat-trick for Phil Foden. So we do get a Manchester City change. Bernardo Silva on that right-hand side has been replaced with Jeremy Doku. Just another thing for Brentford to worry about. But for Phil Foden, that is now 5 goals in 5 against Brentford. He'd scored against them twice previously, home and away. Now he's got a hat-trick against them tonight. Assists from De Bruyne and Haaland. for the last two, as the first one came through an Ethan Pinnock mistake. Collins forward, intercepted by Gvardiol on the halfway line, inside to Ake. So now with Diaz and Manchester City are in cruise control of this one. Diaz lifts out to the left for Alvarez. He touches it down for Gvardiol. It's now with Alvarez. Foden. Back to the halfway line here to Rodri. Now Alvarez again on the left. Midway inside the Brentford half. He's got De Bruyne just behind him. Finds him. Couple of 1-2s here with Foden. And it's now with Ake. Foden again. Whose confidence is sky high at the moment. Being able to score from midfield as regularly as he does, scoring a hat-trick tonight. Foden, 25 yards from goal on the left-hand side, switches it to the right, looking for Walker, who touches it down towards Doku, who springs onto the ball, finds Alvarez on the edge, loses out to Yarnell, out-muscled by the German. It's now forward to Mope. And Mope keeps it away from Walker, goes back towards me. Norgard back to the edge of the box to Pinnock, and it's well kept there for Brentford, who were being swarmed by blue shirts. Röslev inside to Jensen, first time ball forward, looking for Tony, just goes behind him and swept up by Diaz. Gvardiol on halfway, going back towards his own goal as he's been closed down by Jensen. Now finds Diaz midway side the City half. It's now Ake back to Ederson once again. Who, if he concedes tonight, Ederson, it'll be the 250th goal he's conceded for Manchester City. He's on 249 at the moment. Edge of the 18-yard box now with Rodri. Finds Walker in a right-back position. Down the line for Doku. Off the bench for Manchester City. Dropped to the bench as he did start the game against Burnley. As he sprints across the field to the left-hand side here and lays it off to Belgian teammate Kevin De Bruyne. Very settled possession now for Manchester City. You're just going to see this game through. Looks like Brentford haven't got a lot left in the tank to really cause City any danger. Alvarez. And that's the same with Alvarez and De Bruyne. In the positions they've been given for Guardiola, they've got the licence to just drift from one side to the other. They've not really got a set position. De Bruyne on this right flank. Has to go back here to Kyle Walker. This is only his second ever appearance against Brentford, Kyle Walker. That came in the last game here at the GTEC Community Stadium. It's with Rodri in the centre circle. Haaland. And for Erling Haaland, this is obviously before he was injured. He hasn't scored in his last three in the Premier League. His last goal was against Liverpool on the 26th of November. Obviously, he's been injured since then, but he hasn't scored in his last three. He's failed to score in 7 in the Premier League. He has scored a hat-trick this season as well, in early September to Fulham. One of very few teams he's not scored against in the Premier League is Brentford. Only played them once last season, and that was in the home game where they lost 2-1. Well, we've got 15 minutes to play here. It's still City possession in the Brentford half. Working it from one side to another. Doku now one-on-one with Reguilon. Just outside the area. Tackled by Reguilon, but the loose ball drops to De Bruyne. Flicks it back through for Doku. Byline. Pulls it across. It's cleared by Collins. He was looking for Haaland. Controlled though by Rodri. Poked back out to the left of Gvardiol. Inside for Foden. Avoids the English central attacking midfielder. And now Me can bring it away and feed it out to the left of Reguilon. Looks for an early ball across. Comes off Walker. And that'll be a throw for Brentford on the near side. And Reguilon on his first start for Brentford. Looks like he's very much settled into the way they play. But I think he'll be brought off here. So we're going to get a triple change for Brentford. Number 27 will be number 27 Yarnell will be replaced by number 33 of Yegor Yarmolenko. Matthias Jensen will come off for Mikael Damsgaard. And Mads Röslev will come off for Keane Lewis Potter. So Sergio Reguilon remains on. So triple change for Brentford. As Yegor Yarmolenko comes on for the 4th time in a row off the bench. Keane Lewis Potter comes on after starting the last 6 in the Premier League. Mikel Damsgaard comes on looking for his first ever Brentford goal. He's played for them 39 times previously and he's still yet to score after joining from Sampdoria in the summer of 2022. So 3 changes for Brentford. As they lose it from the throw-in. They win it back, headed forward by Collins on halfway. Me forward for Tony. Finds Mope. And back to Tony. Can't quite beat Ake to it. He pokes it behind for a corner on the near side. Still a little bit of life left for Brentford. If they could get a second, that would really make the final 10, 15 minutes of this game very interesting. Thank you to everyone who's stayed around for this stream. We've had some healthy numbers in for the second half, which I very much appreciate. If you could like and subscribe, that would be absolutely fantastic, as we are closing in on the end of this game between Brentford and Manchester City. We have got 2 more commentaries coming up midweek. Rangers Aberdeen tomorrow and Aston Villa Chelsea on the Wednesday. As off the bench, Damsgaard will take this corner. It'll be an in-swinger to the near post. It's a free header won by Norgard straight at Ederson. Easy save for the Brazilian in the end. But quite poor from Manchester City to allow Norgard to have the free header at the near post, about 8 yards out. Straight at Ederson though in the end. It's now a Phil Foden, about 15 yards away from the halfway line. He's got Yarmulke in front of him, feeds it to the left here to Gavardio. It's now to Alvarez, who passes the halfway line. Completely unpressed here, Alvarez, as he finds Walker to his right. It's now with Kevin De Bruyne, who has never done a 38-game season himself, De Bruyne. He always seems to pick up an injury here and there, or just doesn't quite find himself playing in every single game. The closest he's come to playing every game in a Premier League season was 37 in the Centurion season when City reached 100 points. Obviously, this season has been another year where he's been hit by an injury. It's just his 7th game of the season tonight. As Brentford are in behind. Ball across, caught by Ederson. Easy catch in the end. Tony was nowhere near the cross as Ederson rolls it out here. It was Lewis Potter on that right-hand side with the cross. Eventually finds Doku in the Brentford half. On the City right. 1-on-1 with Damsgaard. Finds the pass inside to Rodri, who just about shifts Mope off it, but it's illegally done. Just pushed Mope with 2 hands, and it'll be a free kick on the halfway line for Brentford. As Brentford are going to make their 4th change here. Sergio Reguilon will be replaced here. His first start for Brentford after his loan switch from Spurs. And he'll be replaced by Christopher Ajer. It was signed for £13.5 million in July 2021 from Celtic. He's making his 2nd ever appearance against Manchester City. Didn't play any minutes against them last season. So it looks like Lewis Potter will come out to this left-hand side and Ajer will play on the right side of the defence. Just over 10 minutes to play. He'll be flecking on the halfway line to send this free kick forward for Brentford. In behind it goes towards the 18-yard box. Ederson's coming for it out of the area. What is he doing? Bundles Ethan Pinnock over, but the loose ball drops to Foden and City will try and counter-attack. Alvarez to De Bruyne, who's away on the right-hand side. Has he got the pace on Damsgaard? Holds it up in the area here, De Bruyne. And then goes back to Doku. And Doku will kick it out of play as Pinnock has stayed down. Got no idea what Ederson's doing coming out for that. He can't obviously use his hands because it's out of the area. He's completely misjudged it. Obviously, he thought the cross was coming into the area. It's not. It's to the edge of the box where he's had to put his hands down and he's pretty much ran into Pinnock. How that's not a free kick, I just don't know. Right on the edge of the box, he just jumped into Pinnock. How is that not a free kick? Our referees are useless. They actually are. I'm not bothered. Our referees are absolute garbage. He's just jumped into him. Why? How is that not a free kick? I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh. Because, you know, it's not funny. It's serious. But, you know, Ederson surely knows that's got to be a free kick. Just jumped into Pinnock. Can't do that. Got away with it, though. Not given by Jared Gillett. Which is surprising, but what can you do? The referee says no. His decision stands. And it has to stand because it wasn't in the area, unfortunately. It was outside the box, so VAR could not get involved. But Pinnock's okay. And we are back underway here with City on the ball. Midway side of their own half with Diaz. Simple pass to his left to Ake. Round the corner here, over the top for Alvarez. He'll get there ahead of Pinnock, touch inside, but he's tackled well by Pinnock on the recovery. And it's now with Norgard in the midfield. To his left to Damsgaard. Out wide left looking for Mope. Goes beyond the Frenchman. And out of play for a throw-in on the halfway line for City on this near side. So Jared Gillett here in conversation with Kyle Walker. Not quite sure what has occurred here. Neil Maupay is obviously involved. What a shock. When is he not involved? Just having a few words there from Jared Gillett, and we'll eventually get this Manchester City throw-in, as now Kyle Walker is talking with the fourth official, Stuart Atwell. Kyle Walker clearly not happy with something that Neil Maupay was doing. We're back underway with the throw-in. Manchester City have worked it to Ederson on the edge of the 18-yard box, assessing his options. He's going to go long. He's going to go over the top of the Brentford defence here, and Alvarez will chase it. Just peels out to the City left, controls it ahead of Pinnock, but then is tackled by the Jamaican. Just about works it to Ayer, but then they lose it to Alvarez. And it's now back with Rodri. It's now with Ake, about 15 yards inside the Brentford half. Plenty of time on the ball. Goes to his left here to Foden. Back in for Ake. Foden again. Already securing the match ball, Phil Foden. Scoring the hat-trick. 1 in the first half and 2 in the second. 7 minutes of the 90 to play. Foden lays it off for Gvardiol. Heavy touch tackle by Norgard. And on the follow-through, Gvardiol fouls Norgard. And that'll be a free kick for Brentford just inside their own half here. It's another game for Brentford and another defeat. It's their 12th of the season. And they only lost 9 last season in the Premier League, Brentford. And they've currently lost 3 already, more than that. And we've only just hit February. So, they've obviously been... You know, the loss of Ivan Toney at the start of the season's obviously hurt them. And they've also been without the likes of Johan Wissa and Brian Mbeumo. So they've been without key players for all of the season pretty much at some point. But they do need to start picking up more points regularly, as Gvardiol throws it here to Haaland on the angle, cuts it across, looking for Doku, put into the air by me, headed down by Rodri to Alvarez, who spins and shoots, and it's straight down the throat of Mark Flecken in the Brentford goal. It remains Brentford 1, Manchester City 3. Haaland already got 1 assist tonight, looking for his second. Ball eventually dropped to Alvarez from the Rodri header, but straight at Flecken in the end. As Alvarez is breaking away down the right-hand side here. Started every game so far this season in the Premier League, Alvarez, and he wins the throw-in right next to the corner flag as he's tackled there by Mikkel Damsgaard. Thank you to everyone who's staying here till the end. Obviously, the game is pretty much a written conclusion. Looks like Manchester City will see this one through. Rodri, 25 yards from goal. Lifts it out to the right-hand side to Doku. Will he take on Lewis Potter? He'll try him on the outside towards the byline. Doku can work the cross in. Volley from De Bruyne, and it's not far wide. Just walked onto it. Inside of the foot. Finish towards the bottom right corner. It's good work from Doku. Working space for the cross because he didn't have much space to work with. And about 16 yards out as he was just entering the area, De Bruyne latched onto it. Like I say, inside of the foot. If he just got on, if he caught that sweetly, he would have scored that. But he just hit it with more of the heel than he did with the middle of his foot, like the inside of his foot in the middle. So it just went wide in the end. And Erling Haaland, he is going to go 4 without a goal in the Premier League. The last 4 he's played in, he's not scored in. He's now failed to score in 8 of the 17 games he's featured in the season in the Premier League, and he's going to be replaced here by Manchester City's number 8 of Mateo Kovacic, who had started 2 of the last 5 in the Premier League. And he has won twice against Brentford, and they've both come away from home. So they're just going to shore it up in the midfield, add an extra body in there to see this one through, and to get Manchester City back into second spot on goal difference. And they are 2 points behind Liverpool with a game in hand. As Brentford work it out to the far side here to Christopher Ayer. About 10 yards away from the halfway line. He goes for a very audacious switch. Easily picked up by Doku, who's going to run forward for Manchester City. Gets beyond Ben Mee, but the touch goes wayward. It's now with Norgard for Brentford. forward for Mope. Norgard again, charging down the left-hand side. Again, a short pass towards me. Picked up by Doku. And then Walker back to Diaz. And then back once more to Ederson in the 18-yard box. And it's Manchester City in possession once again as it goes forward here for Rodri. Kovacic getting his first few touches of the ball after coming off the bench there. Replacing Erling Haaland. De Bruyne. As he enters the Brentford half, he plays it forward here for Gvardiol, who's had a very solid game at left back for Manchester City. Ake. All Brentford players behind the ball, bar Ivan Toney, as he feeds it for Foden. Kovacic back into the centre circle now with Diaz, who gets away from Norgard. Great skill from Diaz. Finds De Bruyne. Back across to Diaz in a midfield position here, the Portuguese centre-half. Feel getting a bit of a nosebleed that high up the pitch. And he goes here to Kovacic and then retreats back to his centre-back position on the halfway line. The City have it with Ake. Forward for De Bruyne, then back into Kovacic on halfway himself. This has been nothing short of a perfected away performance from Manchester City on the whole. They were done by one goal kick in the 21st minute. Flecken went towards Ivan Toney. And he pinned in Ake, who couldn't go for the ball. And it went right through for Mope, who went through and slotted the ball in. But bar that, City have been nothing short of fantastic tonight. Complete dominance. Should have probably had more than one in the first half. They forced 9 saves from Mark Flecken in the Brentford goal. And I just think, and especially the way they dealt with his second half, it's been quite phenomenal. Wow, phenomenal. I'm gonna not say that word. It's been perfect for Manchester City. Scoring 3. The goals here are all from Phil Foden as Rodri on the edge of the box just about shifts it to his left to Ake as he was being closed down there by Norgard, and then a ball over the top here for Gvardiol. It's not stopped down that left hand side. Josko Gvardiol as he plays the ball inside to Kovacic, who enters the Brentford half. Fine, De Bruyne tries the 1-2, but he's off balance, so the ball goes to a Brentford shirt in the end. It's now with Ivan Toney. His pass comes off Gvardiol and drops through for Foden. It's now Rodri back into Ake. And it's just City killing the clock now as we are edging towards added on time. De Bruyne. All of this play is in the Brentford half. It's just City knocking the ball around. Brentford just chasing it like lost dogs. You know, these are games where Brentford don't necessarily expect to get anything from, but they have been outclassed here as Gvardiol on the edge of the area is claiming for handball, but it's cleared by Lewis Potter and nothing given by the referee. Headed by Kovacic and Rodri, and eventually drops back to Diaz on halfway. Forces Walker wide here to the near side. Down the line for Doku. Goes down over the challenge of Lewis Potter. And he's very apologetic there, Lewis Potter, understanding he did just catch Doku. As we've got 5 minutes added on here at the G-Tech Community Stadium, and I think Brentford are going to make one final change. It's going to be Shandon Baptiste, who came close to scoring an equaliser in added on time away at Tottenham, and he will replace number 7, Neil Mope, who scored the first goal tonight for Brentford. Scored his first ever goal against Manchester City, but unfortunately it wasn't enough for Brentford to take anything from this game, as we've got 4.5 minutes to play. And it's with Walker on halfway on that far right-hand side. Tries to go down the line for Doku. It deflects off Potter. It'll be a throw-in for Manchester City midway side the Brentford half with Kyle Walker to take. De Bruyne touches it away from Ayer. De Bruyne charging forward, tackled by me, and it's taken away from him by Baptiste. And it's now back with Flecken, who clears it out of play for another throw-in for City on the near side. Still deep in the Brentford half. So Walker with this throw-in as we've got 3.5 minutes to play. Now Kovacic In the final third, it's now Walker lifting it across to Ake. Loads of room here for Nathan Ake, who's going to charge forward with a little bit of a sprint and lay it off to Gavardio. Back inside to De Bruyne. Lifts it through for Ake, who can pull it back here. It deflects and it has to be volleyed by Pinnock's left boot. Only as far as De Bruyne on the edge of the box, who keeps it away from Aya. De Bruyne out to the left to Rodri. You know, at the end of the day, my job is to describe the game to you in the best way possible, and it can get a bit repetitive at times, especially with Manchester City, but they're just keeping the ball so well. It's hard for Brentford to get anywhere near it, and they haven't got anywhere near it genuinely for the last 20-25 minutes. It's been that dominant from City in the back end of this game. It's a field day for the referee, just a nice little light jog for him, getting his steps in, killing the calories. It's Ake on the halfway line. 2.5 minutes left to play here at the GTEC Community Stadium. As Manchester City have eased through this in the end, as Rodri's has been caught in possession here just inside the City half. Ayer out to the right here. Can the cross go in for Brentford? It does. Yarmouk, it's a deep one. It will go towards Tony, but it's headed away by Walker. He was looking to find Edison, but it went out of play instead for a corner for Brentford on the near side. Cross goes in from the corner, headed away by Diaz. It'll be retrieved here by Yarmouk. He'll go back to the halfway line here to the goalkeeper Flecken in the centre circle. Clears it out to the Brentford left. It's going to be a header won by Walker. Really powers that forward there, Walker. And it goes straight through for Flecken again. And he lays it off for Yarmouk, who's going to send this forward. It's a switch out to the right, looking for Tony. Gavardio's pulling him back, but Tony can still get to the ball first. And he tries to go around the outside of Gavardio, but he takes it off him. And it's good defending there from Gavardio. Plays it inside to Foden. Back to Rodri. It's now with Diaz, 10 yards in front of his 18-yard box. And it's now with Rodri. And it's same again for City on the ball. Less than a minute to play here. Rodri lays it off here for Mateo Kovacic. Making his 27th appearance for Manchester City tonight. Joined in the summer for £25 million, an initial fee from Chelsea. Didn't make many signings in the summer. Manchester City, just the 5 altogether. Didn't make any in January. Doku goes on the outside of Ayer into the final third. Goes back here into Rodri. Kovacic. And they have got Everton at home next, City, which is a big game because they only drew against them last season at home. And they won't want a repeat of that. They want to get the 3 points at the Etihad against Sean Dyche's team. And if they play anything like this, they'll just bore Everton to death and they'll just send them to sleep and then score the goals by just walking it into the net. As we have got just 5 seconds left, Rodri lifts it out to the right to Alvarez. Header won by Ben Mee to Lewis Potter, who sends it over the top here towards the right-hand side, where again it's dealt with by Gavardio. He's really shown himself to be a good defender tonight. 77 million pounds well spent. And after 5 minutes of additional time here at the GTEC Community Stadium, the referee blows the whistle and it ends Brentford 1, Manchester City 3. Brentford took the lead in the 21st minute through Neil Maupay. All the way from a goal kick, the assist goes to the Brentford goalkeeper. As Neil Maupay, the goal scorer, is in current conversation here with Pep Guardiola. I love to see what them two are telling each other. And Manchester City had a very dominant first half. They had 17 shots, 10 on target, forcing 9 saves from Mark Flecken. But right before half-time, in the 3rd minute of added on time, they were able to break through the Brentford defence. A De Bruyne cross wasn't dealt with properly by Pinnock. The header went to the penalty spot where it was brought down by Foden, and he dispatched it beyond the Dutch goalkeeper to make it 1-1 going into half-time. And into the second half, City's possession and their dominance continued. It didn't take them long to take the lead. Phil Foden in the 53rd minute, heading home from a De Bruyne cross, unmarked completely. And he got it into the bottom right corner beyond Mark Flecken, who could only push it into the back of the net. And that gave Manchester City the control and they're breathing space with the 1-goal lead, and they made sure of the 3 points by scoring their third goal with 20 minutes to go, and it was once again scored by Phil Foden. Laid off to him by Haaland on the edge of the area, and he just strolled into the box. No one putting in a challenge, and he slotted it beyond the goalkeeper to make it 3. Got his third, his second ever hat-trick for Manchester City. He made his 250th appearance for Manchester City in their last game against Burnley, and those 3 goals have put him on 74 for the club. It's his 13 in all competitions for the season. That's the amount he got in the entirety of last season, so you can just see how much he's still improving on his game, Phil Foden. And he's only at the age of 23, and he is one of the best in the country on his day, and he's shown that once again with a hat-trick here against Brentford. And after a frustrating first half where they were able to get back level Manchester City, they just completely dominated the second and have walked away with a very deserving 3 points here, as they did manage to have 25 shots in the end, Manchester City, 15 of them on target with 73% of the ball. They had 13 corners in the end, Manchester City, and I'm not lying to you, 10 of them were in the first half. They absolutely peppered the goal in the first half, Manchester City, and I'm surprised they weren't ahead, and it was only due to Mark Fleck, and they weren't. And they were able to get in level, which helped them in the second half to understand that they were only level. A goal puts them ahead, and that's what they got early on, and they just controlled the game throughout the entirety of the second half, and they put themselves back into second, level on points of Arsenal with a game in hand, and 2 points behind Liverpool, who are top, but they do also have a game in hand on Liverpool as well. So if they win the game in hand, which is coming up in 15 days against Brentford at home, then they would go top of the Premier League by a point, but they would have to beat Brentford again at home to do that, and they'd have to win their game at the weekend as well against Everton. So it's all very close there at the top of the Premier League, as the majority of the teams have 15 games to play, but Manchester City and Brentford still have 16 because they've still got to play each other because they missed the time they were meant to play each other due to the Club World Cup. So them two have still got a game behind. So it's definitely in Manchester City's hands at the moment, but there is still plenty of football to play. So thanks to everyone who's joined. Great commentary. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. Remember, 4 more commentaries coming this week. One tomorrow, Rangers against Aberdeen in the Scottish Premiership at 8 o'clock. And then another 8 o'clock kickoff on Wednesday as Aston Villa take on Chelsea in the FA Cup 4th round replay. And then we've got 2 on Sunday. The first one is the Championship game at 12 o'clock, which is Coventry against Millwall. And the other one is the 4:30 Premier League kickoff, where Aston Villa take on Manchester United. So for me tonight, that is going to be the end of the live commentary. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. But here at the GTEC Community Stadium, Brentford took the lead midway into the first half through Neil Maupay. A long ball forward from the goalkeeper went through the City defence, and Neil Maupay calmly finished into the bottom left corner. But right before the break, Foden got his first of 3 to bring it level into the half-time break. And then into the second half early on, Foden made it 2-1 with a header. And he made it 3 with a left-footed finish beyond Flecken with 20 minutes to go. Until the end, from then till the end of the game, it was complete dominance from Manchester City. Played Brentford off the park, not losing the ball at all. And in the end here, at the GTEC Community Stadium, it ends Brentford 1, Manchester City 3.